Greetings, Twin Valley faculty friends. This is Brian Waddy, and I wanted to show you guys a little about my IE block scheduling Google Doc that I've put together. The video that you're currently watching will have a link up here in the corner, so if you get stuck, forget what I said, or forget where this link is, you can always click on it here. But the idea for scheduling an IE block is going to be the following. Not only are you going to be using the enrichingstudents.com website to schedule your individual advisees during Monday, during the IE block Monday period. But hopefully you'll also have your Power Teacher open so you could reference their grades and figure out the most up-to-date grade regarding what classes they might perhaps need help in. And then we'll have this tab open, which is the IE block scheduler. So what I've done here, you might notice that I've got some fixed columns here and rows, and this lower left pane or panel has every day. All right, so you can see that I've got the dates across here, including the weekday and whether it's an A or a B day, scheduled. And every teacher is listed on the left hand side, so you can see each teacher here. So if we scroll all the way down, you can see, for instance, here's myself. All right, so I can see that on Thursday, March 6th, what I've got planned doing. So I was going to do a Geometer Sketchpad introduction course. All right, so in order to schedule, this is what you would end up doing. So you can move between what days your offerings are going to be. We're of course starting on February 25th, and for the first couple weeks, we're only going to offer IE, just so we all get the hang of it. And then after that, we'll be able to branch out and do some PLC and prep stuff as well. So the first thing in your cell would be your name, which is going to pull from your default name over here. Then your room number, which is your current default room number here, although you can change these. So for instance, we do have some teachers that are going to be double booked in certain rooms just because of availability. And if, for instance, I wanted to change this, I realized up here there's no available rooms that day for me to change into. But if I, say on this Wednesday, realized, oh, for some reason I'm not going to be in room 110 and I'm looking for a different room, I can see up here that Lab 2 is available on this Wednesday. So if I change this to Lab 2, I can now occupy that room. It's not my default room, but now I can see that room 110 is available for other people to use. So that way it just kind of keeps track of who's going to be in what rooms and what's going to be available in case we're moving around for PLC or prep reasons and we want to make some classroom space available for other IEs. So it's got your room number. Now the type option, a little pull down menu here, currently the only type available is IE for that day, but if I scroll over enough, I actually will have other options where I can do IE, I can do a PLC that period, or I can have my prep that period. Okay? And if you're going to do PLC or prep, we do request that that's when you would log in to your Enriching Students account, and you would end up blocking out the date of your prep or PLC. All right, so you could end up, finding yourself here and blocking out the respective date. All right, so you can fill that out like that. So those are the other options. Now notice once I changed this to, say, prep, a couple things changed. I've actually got some stat tracking going on here. This cell here changed where it's the current number of preps scheduled for that day, and you can see that it changed to 1 out of 5. Another cell that changed are my personal stats, which are over here on the left, where my number of preps are 1 out of 8 currently scheduled or used. So for throughout the whole semester, I've currently got full-time teachers are going to have 8 PLC and 8 preps that they can schedule for themselves. And when you do that, just make sure that you're, first of all, not overusing the number of PLCs or preps that you have available, but also that you're not overbooking a single day. All right, because if we have too many teachers on prep or PLC, we won't have enough on IE, and our IE classes will get very, very full very, very quickly. So that allows you those couple of options there. Then it's got the department type, and it pulls from your default So all of these are by default going to be whatever, mine's for instance math. But if I was to say schedule a PLC or something like that, maybe it would make sense for me to change this to like all faculty or something like that, or something to that effect. Or maybe I'm going to offer an IE, but in a content area that is not my main. Maybe I would end up doing an English, writing in mathematics or something. Who knows what I would end up doing, right? But perhaps at times it would make sense to change that depending on the case. All right, so that is your description. Now in your description, all right, down here, we actually want you to be somewhat detailed. All right, don't just say Math 3 help, for instance. But if you can link it to a particular skill, that's better, because then students know what they're signing up for that day, and it will also limit the amount of differentiation that's necessary. So for instance, I've got here, I'm going to do trigonometry reference angles, or solving multi-step equations, or factoring using the greatest common factor. And by giving a specific skill where we're targeting the weaknesses or areas that we want to strengthen for our student population, we can better target those needs and have students show up with those needs in mind. So try to move away from just describing it based off of your course, because hopefully we're having students who are not in your course attend your IE period, because we're going to have students across all ranges that are going to be needing those skills. And also, don't necessarily indicate in your description, don't say like remediation and this is the skill, or enrichment and this is the skill, because depending on the student, it might be enrichment or remediation. So for instance, factoring using the greatest common factor, if I had a Math 1 student that wanted to go beyond, right, and take this with me, that would be enrichment for them. But if I had a Math 4 or a pre-calc or a calculus student that needed some building of those skills and remediation, they might be both in the same exact IE block, learning the same skill, but it's a different experience for both of them depending on where they currently are. And then down underneath that, I've got laptops scheduled. So for instance, I've got scheduled 15 laptops here, and you can see that it also indicates laptops reserved for that day are 15 out of the 80 that we have available. And one of the constraints I do have, you can enter up to 20 laptops, but if I try to enter 21 here, it'll actually jump back to 20, or if I go to 15, and anything over 20, it won't accept as input. So there's that cap there. Also, you can't enter negative numbers. I don't know why you'd ever do that anyway. That wouldn't make any sense. But yeah, so you can reserve laptops as well. That way we're coordinating how many laptops are being used per day for IE blocks, because I imagine that there will be a great demand for that, and we'd kind of want to make sure that those are all available depending on what's being offered. So regarding the stats, you can see that per day, not only do we have the rooms available, the laptops reserved, how many preps are currently assigned amongst all teachers, how many PLCs, and how many IE blocks. We've got all that, but then we've also got your personal stats over here. So the number of IE days that I'm available is 54. There's 54 days that it's going to be offered, essentially non-Mondays, right, essentially Tuesdays through Fridays. I've currently got the dates skipping the half days. We're not going to have IE on half days. And I might end up deleting some of these columns, as maybe if we have, for instance, a winter carnival or something like that, we probably wouldn't offer it on that day as well. So I need to offer at least 38 out of those 54 IE days, hopefully are going to be IE from me. Now currently all of them are scheduled that by default, but that's going to go down as I end up offering, PLC or prep. So that's the idea, is you've got all of your personal stats all tracking automatically. Now I will in the future add some other tab options. I've got some kind of plans laid out for them down here. I currently do have the rooms available tab, where it's just got what rooms available, what day. I also plan on having the ability to look up for PLC groups to see what PLCs are being offered on what days and who's currently signed up for them. That functionality is not yet in place. And I'd also hope to be able to add some sort of filter so that if you're scheduling a student, right, so when you're scheduling an individual student, so let's move this to, let's see if it's thinking, here we go. So if I'm scheduling a student for the 24th or 25th, and I want to schedule someone, I'm hopefully going to be I'm going to be bouncing between this tab for the schedule and this tab here. So I'd be looking at, okay, so here's Tuesday the 25th, and I could scroll up and down to see what teachers are offering that period, and then go and schedule them with the appropriate teacher depending on what would make sense. So you're going to use this in line with their tool. This is just the purpose of this document is for us to have kind of a master schedule, since we're using their tool beyond its current scope and capacity. All right, it wasn't designed with this in mind necessarily, where we wanted to add the ability to do preps and PLCs. Regarding scheduling, if you are absent for a particular day due to limitations on the number of IE blocks offered, if you're absent unexpectedly, leave some sub-plans for your IE sub, all right? Or maybe if I'm absent, I might just say absent and then say run as an ACK lab. Perhaps something like that would make sense. So if you have a group of students that are going to be coming for your IE block and you know that they could work independently, or if you have something laid out very clearly, you can have them still do that IE activity. But at this point, it would probably make sense just for you to still have it scheduled as an IE or PLC. If you were going to be at PLC and you're going to be absent, then you just would miss that day. But just have the sub either run it as an ACK lab or try to run it as the IE block with your sub plans laid out accordingly. At this point, don't necessarily block the date if you're absent, even if it's an absence known in advance. We might change that in the future, but at this point, if we end up having people absent and IE blocks can't be held, the number of IE blocks offered will be far less, and then we'll end up having larger student populations for each of them. So if you're absent, just mark it somehow in the box, even if it's pre-planned or something like that. Now, I did go through, so for instance, full-time teachers have about 8 preps a day, or 8 preps and PLCs offered each, right, throughout the whole rest of the school year on those days. But for part-time teachers, I ended up fractionally figuring it out accordingly. So you can see that there's only 3 apiece for each of those, but also only 15 IE blocks need to be offered by that teacher there as well. Depending on how often you work, the dates of those may change. So so some of these are fluctuating differently depending on your situation. Also, I try to look ahead in your schedule and pre-list you, so those part-time teachers have the option of none as an availability option for them based on what days they're not here. So if you're not here on B days, I already pre-scheduled that as nones, or on A days, vice versa. So I've got that all kind of I tried to take care of that as best as possible. So when it comes to scheduling students, you'll be bouncing between this software, this Google Doc, and hopefully the Power Teacher to see their grades in real time. And yeah, I imagine this will take a little bit of time as time goes on. If you have any feedback for me, please shoot me an email, or we can discuss it at future faculty meetings as we need to, because I'm sure that you guys will have some better ideas as to what information might be valuable in this layout. So thanks so much for watching this. Please give me feedback and let me know how I can help. Bye-bye.